When we started our podcast, we intended to make it common for people to listen to more tech based podcasts. And I think with already 26 episodes live across various platforms like Spotify, Google Podcast, and Amazon Music, I think we're slowly getting there. I'm your host, Suhana Bhattacharya, and this is the Good Firms Leaders Roundtable podcast. We bring in someone experienced from the IT industry to talk about different topics. And today, we have Denis Avramenko with us, solution architect at Solved Incorporated. Solved Inc. is a global QA and software engineering company with 11 plus years in business. And Denis has been part of Solved Inc. for over 8 years now. So, Dennis, I welcome you to the Good Firms Leaders Roundtable podcast. Something that you like to tell about your role at Solved Incorporated to our audience?
Hi, Suhana. Thank you for having me today. Yes, I have a few insights to share today. Regarding my role in the company, I actually work closely with clients and teams to create robust technical solutions. I provide clear guidance throughout the whole project lifecycle. From organization perspective, I contribute insights about technologies and research projects. I help finding optimal technical solutions and team configuration as well that really meets the timeline and budget of our clients.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And after hearing all of that, I'm very sure that we are talking to the right person for the topic that we're about to start. And the entrepreneurs or the developers who are listening to us right now know that developing a software, website, or mobile application takes so much time and effort from both ends, from the client end, from the business end, both of these. So we are here to discuss with Dennis some ways that can reduce development time by almost 80%. And that's a huge improvement with the help of something called as rule-based prompts. We'll get to that in the further questions. But now that we're starting, I'd like to ask Dennis to share some of his experience when it comes to software development. Like, what are those problems and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, our team had a project where we needed to create an integration that could efficiently synchronize entities between two systems. We needed to handle errors there. So, first, we had to make sure that the solution was suitable for production use and will allow us to quickly identify the root cause of any synchronization problem during the implementation phase and the release phase. And secondly, we had to do this integration in tight time frame without a business analyst. And we try to focus on what users need and team and what we expected to get in order to troubleshoot any issues. So we thought it's a really great opportunity to combine ChatGPT and our tacit knowledge in software development. So we were able to come up with a few rule-based prompts that helped us to reduce a lot of effort. And we wanted a quick replacement for the business analyst. So basically, I'll be talking about a rule-based prompt for the business analyst.
Okay, doing some integration in a very tight frame without a business analyst is something, development companies can't even think of. And doing that with the help of rule-based prompts obviously make things a lot easier, right?
Yes, exactly. And also, we can have a lot of improvements there in terms of the project metrics. I can talk about that as well.
Mm. So you just talked about rule-based prompts, and that is
Yeah.
something which I am not specifically aware of. So can you please explain the concept of rule-based prompts to me and to our audience as well?
Sure. Rule-based prompts are prompts with a very specific structure that are highly reusable, which allow a greater control over the output, and it makes easier to create effective prompts. So, for instance, a rule-based prompt can instruct the AI to answer the question from a developer or any other stakeholder in a very specific format. So you can control the level of the details for each section it provides. It can be a document, so you can emphasize on any technical aspect. And for example, when you run such prompt to answer the question from the developer, he can include in the structure the rules about terms and definitions, which will help him to understand the context, to get more understanding about the terms that they will be used in the problem solving. For example, you can have questions to your team lead, or you can have questions to your business analyst. And as well, you can have a production configuration that will help you to see, what is the example, like how the code or any configuration of the infrastructure looks in production. That's really helpful. So you can get a very comprehensive answer to your question or problem.
And I think it also makes things a lot more easier for developers, and it also eases the way of communication. Like you have to explain this to someone, so you can do that with the help of rule-based prompts. Am I right?
Yes, yes, exactly. You can use it in communication. You can share your expertise when you build such prompt. And the beauty of it that, for example, one of the metrics that shows us that we actually increase the velocity of the team around 1.5 or 2 times. And we spend a whole day to write the prompt, and we still get a lot of benefit from it. Even the whole day of writing the high quality prompt, you get into the win-win situation.
Hmm. Now, actually, I'm curious because I want to know how these rule-based prompts differ from the traditional programming methods. How has it evolved over time?
That's a good question. I think we need to look at it as the evolution of the traditional programming. So
Mhm.
traditional programming, like the core idea, it's often require developers to start from scratch. And while rule-based prompts, they provide an expertise and the starting point. So what's fascinating is that we're now at a point where you can essentially tell an AI model to kind of emulate the thought process and the actions of various roles in the software development, meaning that you can get a very good artifact when you use prompts, specifically the high quality prompts. And traditional programming indeed evolved significantly over time. So giving a burst to higher level of abstraction, reusable components, methodologies, that cater more human-like need for simplicity and understanding. So currently, we are incorporating elements of machine learning in the AI to help models act as a software developer or a system architect or a business analyst. So this way, it can provide you with insights you are looking for, or even generate significant component or highly valuable project artifact.
Right. And you just mentioned that you're incorporating elements of machine learning and AI to help different models act as a developer or a system architect or a business analyst. And I remember that these things were only something that were imaginary, but these things are actually happening right now and are being applied as well.
Yeah, that's really awesome because now you can share with your colleague. You can create any high quality prompt, which is close to rule-based structure, actually, to get a high quality result. But you can share it with your colleague, and it's really simulating the thought process of software engineer.
Okay. You just mentioned that you have been using a lot of rule-based prompts. So, can you share some example of scenarios of using such rule-based prompts that businesses can implement in their software development process?
Yeah, that's a good point. Rule-based prompts or any high-quality prompts, it can be beneficial in any industry where software development takes place. In game development, when creating new characters, a prompt could be used to generate a character backstory, attributes, even dialogue based on predefined rules. There is a very good example. You can have a very organic dialogue with a character. It's called Pygmalion. So this is a really great LLM model that you can use. And also in the healthcare industry, the use of high quality prompts so they can transform how patient data is analyzed. And the prompt could be designed to look for specific patterns or markers in patients' data that may indicate a potential health issue. And you may have heard of the Hungarian physicians that are using artificial intelligence that can
Mhm.
detect breast cancer 4 years before it develops. That's absolutely amazing. Also, in the AI world, you can fine tune other AI models. And for example, in customer service, prompts could be used to generate synthetic data to simulate different customer interactions. In education industry, you can also have absolutely amazing experience which is fun and unique. You can have some kind of one punched eye pirate that helps you to learn more about cooking. So that's another thing
Mhm.
very fascinating. Yeah.
When we think of industries where these rule-based prompts can be applicable, so I think none of the industries are being left behind, right?
Yeah, and recently I checked the researches about that. The
Yes.
Accenture company,
Mhm.
they provided their study about the US workers, the an occupation and the possibilities to automate and do tasks with assistance of the AI. And they show that 80% of workers belong to an occupation with at least 10% of its tasks exposed to LLMs. And if we look at the specific industries which we belong to, for example, software and platforms, or financial services, or energy, or communications, and over 50% of their tasks can be done by LLMs or with assistance of LLMs. That means a huge amount of tasks in our industry can be done with or by AI.
That's great. But while we have been discussing a lot about how rule-based prompts are very useful to different industries, I wanted to also discuss what are some potential drawbacks or limitations to using these rule-based prompts in software development. Like, does it have an impact on the accuracy or efficiency of the final product?
Yes, that's a very good question. And actually, yes, it has. So, one potential drawback is that rule-based prompts may not always capture the full complexity of a task. So, you will have issues with the accuracy and its value, right? So, how to avoid that? Sometimes you just need to allow AI to give you more guidance. So, you can produce this rule-based prompt or high-quality prompt through the dialogue with the AI. And in some cases, if the rules are too strict, if we talk about rule-based prompt, they might block your creativity. So meaning that finding the right combination of conceptual understanding and freedom of exploration, you can open new knowledge and enhance the ability to solve problems. So feel free to allow yourself to make a very short prompt and then evolve it into more reusable prompt that produces most of the time the same high quality result.
I guess what you're trying to say is not be completely, binding with the rules of those prompts, but also using your own creativity and exploring what is out there other than that, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
So, could you please provide a step-by-step guide or some best practices for creating those rule-based prompts?
Yeah, yeah. The first step is to understand the requirements of your task. You need to define an accurate description of the expert role, create a list of artifacts that you need to produce based on that prompt, and also actions that required to finish the task. So then you can start creating a prompt template. It will have role section, instructions, rules, and topic. For example, for business analyst expert prompt, which produces user stories, you can write in role section something like act as a business analyst and follow instructions and provide the rules. And in the instruction sections, we'll have an artifact or action. For example, the task is to craft a user story that describes an interaction between user and an application in the context of the provided topic. And in the rule sections, you can add as many rules as you want, but try to be concise and very close to what artifact you want to produce. And you can define the format, for example, and its structure. So it will look like produce a markdown document with three sections: user story, acceptance criteria, stakeholder questions, and that's it. So you will have three sections in the output answer from the AI. Also, you can have rules like each acceptance criterion should follow a specific format and contain several inner sections, and then define those sections in this rule. And also, you can add rule about order or limit the amount of the acceptance criteria you produce. So finally, you just add short description of the feature in the topic section and execute your prompt. So AI will follow your rules and it will produce user story with all the details you mentioned. Also, one tip that I suggest. So you can actually use cheaper and more efficient GPT 3.5 with this approach because GPT-4 and GPT 3.5 they produce very similar results when you use rule-based prompt.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing the step-by-step guide or best practices for creating such rule-based prompts. I'm sure many developers or entrepreneurs or anybody who's listening to us will give it a try. So coming to the last question, we just wanted to know that Solving has been in the industry for so long, and to survive in this competitive market is definitely not a child's play. So could you please share your company's growth journey with Goodfirms and how our platform has contributed to the success of Solving?
Absolutely. Good Firms is the great platform in media that we have been working with for years. You guys allow us to share experience and expertise with companies and organizations which are looking for quality application testing and development services. So we are really happy to work together.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for sharing your insights on actually how to reduce development time by almost 80% by using rule-based prompts. I think reducing development time is actually need of the hour because the demand for mobile app website is so huge.
Thanks for the conversation. It was nice to meet you.